Hello, church, and welcome to our virtual worship service for Sunday, October 25th, 2020. Let's begin the service as we always do with some of the prayers that you have sent in for this week. We start with a prayer for Carmelo Alvarez, who is one of our UCC mission co-workers in Venezuela, serving with the Evangelical Pentecostal Union, which is an ecumenical Pentecostal denomination. So what Carmelo does there is he teaches seminary courses and participates in various retreats and has served in this capacity as a mission worker for 39 years. And that seems like a long time, but he's following in the footsteps of his father, who was a missionary, a pastor, a seminary professor for 60 years. So he's got a ways to go yet. But Carmelo loves what he does, and he finds hope in working for justice in the midst of the suffering of the Venezuelan people. So we pray for his work and his life to be blessed as he serves God and his community. And friends, we are currently in the third week of our stewardship drive with the theme of We Are What We Practice. And I want to say once again, thank you to all of you who have already sent in your pledge cards. They're so greatly appreciated. And if you would like to make a pledge, just please fill out the card that you already received in the mail and then send it right back to the church office, or you can just come and drop it off here at the church. It'll get to where it needs to go. Of course, if you need a pledge card, they are also available in the church office, or we can have one sent to you if you send an email to the church. So one way or another, we can get it to you. If you don't have it in this week, doesn't matter. Just send it in when you can, and thank you once again. So as we start up again with our outdoor in-person worship, which is this Sunday, the 25th, for the first time, we acknowledge at the same time the impact that COVID has had and continues to have in our world, in our society, and in our lives. So to regather like this is not something we take lightly. And so we ask for prayers as we seek to do what is right before God, for each other, and in our community. And I pray also for those who continue to be impacted by all the wildfires that have happened this fire season, and all those who will now be impacted for the impending PSPS shutoffs that could affect many of us in this area. So our prayers go out to all those who may really struggle over these next few days, and also to those who are in that really difficult and often thankless position of deciding how to best manage the power grid and to make these public safety decisions. And friends, if you do find yourself without power over the next day or two or three, Auburn has several community resource centers, okay? The Lions Hall, the Tahoe Club, and particularly the Gold Country Fairgrounds, where you can get some water, recharge your devices, get some information that you need if you need any help. So seek those places out if you're in need. And now, friends, please continue with me in the spirit of prayer as we enjoy a moment of silence together. And then I'll say a pastoral prayer and we'll close with the Lord's Prayer. God, may your spirit of grace and love and mercy come into our lives, come into our world in ways that are just so powerful, so real. Break into our discourse. Break into our hearts that just seem so ready to be turned into turmoil at the flip of a switch. Provide us a spiritual buffer that we have what we need to be able to attend to the loved ones in our lives and then the adversaries in our lives, or the perceived adversaries, that we might not get so activated or triggered as we walk through these really difficult days. And they are difficult. They're stressful. For all the reasons. God, we ask for your Spirit to be that fountain of replenishment that we know we can go to, and not just to take a little sip, not just to come up and kind of just do a quick little refill, but to really just bury our cup into those deep waters and fill ourselves on what you provide. That life-giving Spirit, that life-giving water, that nourishment that we also deeply need because we are spent. We're feeling taxed. We're feeling like we got just this much left sometimes. And it's easy to fall into that trap of trying to do it all ourselves. Maybe we pay lip service to the fact that we can't, but we don't always do a good job of letting go and letting you come in. So that's our prayer today. That no matter where we've been traveling, what we've been walking, how rocky it is along the path where we found ourselves, maybe we've put some of the stones in our own way. Maybe we've been stumbling. Maybe we've been traveling backwards or blindfolded. I don't know. Maybe it's just that our journey's been tough one way or another, and we long for that way that you can provide, only you can provide, through the darkness, through those places of stumbling, through those rough roads and patches in our lives. God, it's with deepest humility, it's on our knees that we ask you these things, that you provide us the strength and the Spirit that we require. And we do this knowing that that's the same Spirit that Christ walked in this life with you. Through all the tumult, through all those horrible times, through all the beautiful times, there was such a deep awareness of your presence, your abiding Spirit, that would see him through. May it see us through too, as we say these words together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Good morning, church. In this time of stewardship, not only of our financial and material resources, but in the relationships that we walk in and in the world that we walk through, I thought of somebody who walks quite softly and sings a beautiful song, and that is James Taylor.
Yeah, in these days of division and unease, sometimes you just need a little James Taylor. And I don't know, have you ever sung James Taylor in church before? I can't remember. Maybe once or twice. You can't do it enough. So sing this one, sing along with us on this one if you know it. Did you already say the name of it? It's called Shower the People?
Yes. You can play the game, you can act out the part, even though it wasn't written for you. Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed at playing the fool? One thing can lead to another, doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do as I say, just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will.
You can run, but you cannot hide. Oh, this is widely known. Tell me what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone. Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be just fine if you only will. What I'd like to do is just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Oh, yes, make it rain. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Everybody. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel.
Everybody, we miss you so much. Today we're going to read Psalm 31, verses 1 through 4 and 9 through 16. In you, O Lord, I seek refuge. Do not let me ever be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me. Incline your ear to me. Rescue me speedily. Be a rock of refuge for me, a strong fortress to save me. You are indeed my rock and my fortress. For your name's sake, lead me. Sake, lead me and guide me. Take me out of the net that is hidden from me. For you are my refuge. I think the first part of the passage means you should always seek the Lord and trust that He will answer your prayers. So the next part is,
Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am in distress. My eye wastes away from grief, my soul and body also. For my life is spent with sorrow, my years with sighing, my strength fails because of my misery, and my bones waste away. I am the scorn of all my adversaries, and an honor for my neighbors. an object of dread to my acquaintances. Those who see me in the street flee from me. I have passed out of mind like one who is dead. I have become like a broken vessel, for I hear the whispering of many terror all around. As they scheme together against me, they plot to take my life. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hand. Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and persecutors. Right? Persecutors?
Yeah.
Okay. Let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your steadfast love. Okay, so I'm pretty sure they're saying like it's a bit dark and confusing, but I think it means like that even in your darkest moments you can still turn in prayer and ask God for mercy. Sounds like a cheat jerky right now. But yeah, I don't know. You can like turn to prayer and ask God for mercy, and you'll probably be saved. I think I haven't died yet, so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. So that was Psalm 31 verses 1 through 4, 9 to 16. 16. Well, bye everybody. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
It's good to see everybody again. A lot has changed since we were last together, huh? Yeah. So I would like you all to think about a couple of things while we're up here. And I would love for you to share your thoughts with me. It's been 7 months, I think, since we've all been together like this. 7.5-ish, according to Kaden. And I think there have been a lot of really hard things about the last 7.5-ish months, but there have also been some pretty good things. And I would love for you guys to tell me one thing that you have really enjoyed about this period of quarantine, and one thing that you have found to be a real struggle. Ooh, that's the fastest I think I've ever gotten volunteers. Go ahead, Kaden.
Something that's bad is I can't see my friends very often at all.
What about good?
I don't know.
Think about it, because I will come back to you. Bree, do you have something good and bad? Okay.
Something bad is, like what Kaden said, I can't see my friends as much, and when you can, you have to wear masks and stay outside, so it's not really the same. But something good is that you can sleep in and you don't really have to drive to school or anything like that.
It has made the mornings a lot easier, hasn't it? Anybody else? Thoughts? I'll tell you, one thing I struggle with is the glasses fogging up from the masks. Yeah, if you have a little clip, that it helps, but sometimes it still rides up. Anybody else? Something really good about quarantine and something not so good? Rowan, I don't know how long this will stretch, so.
I can watch TV for hours. And the bad thing is, I can't go out and see my friends, which means I sit on my bed a lot and don't do much. And so I'm getting very tired easily and lazy, and I don't know what to do because my trampoline's broken.
I'm sorry to hear that. Not seeing your friends is definitely a really, really hard one. Anybody else? Thoughts? Yes, sure, girl.
Well, being home and getting exercise.
You like being home and getting exercise? Yeah, that's a pretty nice thing about it too, right? Lots of time for exercise. Anybody else? Do you have... Oh, Caden's got a good thing now.
I can spend a lot more time reading.
And you do. What?
So, we spend a lot of time like is probably how we have to wear a mask in the store every time we go there.
What's been something good?
That I get to ride my bike in the morning.
That is fun. We've been going to the new bike park here in town some too.
I also get to play on my trampoline a lot more.
Well, there you go. We got a trampoline here. A big one. Awesome. Wow.
Something I find interesting is how in quarantine I've been watching a lot more TV, but I've also been exercising a lot more, so the two kind of cancel each other out.
There you go. It's always good to get a balance. Did you have something, McKenna? Oh, I thought I saw your hand going up. Do you have anything? How about you, Gabe? What's been something really good about the last couple of months? No, nothing. There hasn't been anything good about the last couple of months? No. Have you liked school? Yeah? You want to talk about school? I can put my kids on the spot.
I learned how to ride bike really well during the summer.
There you go. We got a good thing.
That's good.
Yes.
One bad thing is I broke my wrist during the summer, and one good thing is I get to play Roblox by myself.
You get away from your little sister. That's impressive. It's hard to do right now. Do you have anything, McKenna?
A good thing is that I'm able to go on bike rides a lot more often.
Anything that's been really hard for you?
Having to do school over Zoom.
Yeah, that can be a challenge. I've been really impressed with our teachers, with how well they've been, how flexible they have been in helping our kids. Yes.
Something I find interesting is how I feel like there's two types of people with Zoom classes. You have the first people who absolutely hate it, but then the second people who maybe they know a little bit more about computers. So it's great for them and they absolutely love it. There's no middle ground in it at all.
That very well may be. Are you cold? Yeah. So I wanted to share with you guys one thing, because there has been a lot of stuff that's really hard about quarantine. And sometimes I know it's really easy to focus on all of the bad and how hard it has been and how much we feel like we're alone. And so when we first started talking about this service and what we were going to do, I'm sure some of you folks will recognize this. There's a poem called Footprints that really sort of struck me, because as much as we feel alone, we are lucky in that we believe in a God who is never leaving us alone. So I'm going to read this poem to you, and then you guys can go back to your families, all right? Okay. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times of my life, there is only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, My son, my precious child, I love you and would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then I carried you. So let's go ahead and close in a prayer. Okay. Dear God, thank you for always being with us, and thank you for helping us to find the benefits of this crazy time that we've been living in. And please help us as we start to gather together again to keep us safe and to help us remember that we are never alone. In your name.
Would you please be with me in the spirit of prayer? God, may these words that move from paper through my mouth, may they reach hearts that will know what to do with them. May your Spirit guide each one of us to hear and to receive and to move in ways that bless your world. Amen. All right, so I admit when I was looking at these scriptures today, and this is the third Sunday of our stewardship campaign, and I'm looking at that psalm that's just kind of about just being beaten down and all that. It's like, wow, what's so inspiring about that? But the thing is about that psalm, it keeps it real. I like how that song, I love how that song is just about what's really going on. And that's part of what's important about church, okay? That's what we try to do here. So that psalm, to me, keeps it real. And one of the phrases that is repeated that you don't sort of get with the English translation is Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. And those words were deemed so powerful within that particular psalm and within the whole tradition in the Hebrew Bible that they were just put in there so many times throughout the sacred text. Lord have mercy. Kyrie eleison. Schubert heard those words and he included them in his Mass number 2 as a way of reminding his audiences about just how important and powerful that simple prayer is. Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. Now, how many of you either grew up in the 80s or like 80s music? You should all be raising your hands, actually. But you would probably remember the song by Mr. called Kyrie. And if you don't, it's the one that goes, Kyrie eleison down the road that I must travel. Okay? Now, I love that song way before I even knew what the heck that meant. Okay, that was just a good tune. And I think, what it's saying is, Lord have mercy in the darkness of the night. Lord have mercy where I go, will you follow? Lord have mercy on a highway in the night. Or in the light. And one of the reasons I think that song holds up, I think we would all agree, right? That song holds up. But it's true. It's because what they're saying is so true. We need that. We need that mercy. We need that light to guide us along the way as we travel down all the roads, whatever the roads are, the dark nights, all those unanswerable questions. And look, what we've been going through in this pandemic has been a whole host of things. But it's been a lot of tough nights. There's been a lot of civil unrest in this country. And now the election, you don't even say anything more than just the election. And it just raises so many different emotions within us. And how many of us have either thrown up our hands or at least wanted to and said, God have mercy. Can it stop? The ancient poet that wrote this psalm understands that kind of longing, that kind of crying out, that kind of desire for something new, something good, finally to break through. And from what the psalm tells us, the life that poet is sort of immersed in at that point is not so good. He mentions that he mentions the word sin in the ways that he's kind of taken some responsibility, fallen short, messed things up. But far more of the verses and the focus of this psalm, when you read the whole thing, is about something different than that. More time spent on the attacks that poet is facing from the outside. Stuff that he's bearing, like rumors about him, terrible things being said. And the result is that this psalmist has reached a breaking point. We all do at some point. We all reach our breaking point where he just has had enough. And he breaks down and he says, I feel like a broken pot. I'm useless. I've been tossed aside. And he's overwhelmed. A lot of us know what feeling overwhelmed is like. And more than just overwhelmed, he's overwhelmed with a sense of shame. To the point where the whole point and purpose of his life is questioned. Now, I think we don't really like to talk about it. But many of us have been grappling with shame over these last few months. Maybe it's the shame of feeling ill-equipped or incompetent, to meet the demands of this ever-changing, reality before us. Maybe it's the shame of feeling so disconnected and insecure about who we are and where we stand that we're not even sure how to do relationships anymore, or how to maybe apply for a job or just put ourselves out there. How do we act? You know, whether it's in school, on Zoom, versus if we're back in real school. So many different ways where it can feel so insecure, and we might feel ashamed about our inability to manage that. Maybe we feel ashamed of how the world around us just seems so crazy and divisive all the time. Or the shame that we haven't been able to participate in the things that actually give us a sense of enjoying life, or being able to create that for our families or the people around us that we love. Or maybe it's the shame that we feel when we start to realize that the world seems to have no shame, that there seems to be nothing off limits in the way what we can say and how we can act. It's like we live in this anything goes kind of reality right now. So however we may be experiencing shame, however we may know it, this poet, this psalmist, I think puts it in terms that we can all relate to. Shame can make us feel overwhelmed. It can make us feel spent, cast aside, useless, hopeless. Some of you might recall Herman Melville's classic, Moby Dick. I mean, Gree and others have been, actually it was Caden I think we were talking about. A lot of folks have had time to read. Maybe you've pulled that dusty old volume off the shelf. Most of us have it somewhere. You know, I actually was assigned to read it in high school, and I still have the Cliff Notes. But anyway, regardless of whether or not you've read the book recently or ever or not, in the middle of the story, there is an interesting kind of encounter here. And it's the first time that the ship has captured a whale. It's a whaling ship. It's about a whaling ship. And the harpooner, the one who has caught this whale, the first whale, is being served his own fine meal of this just beautiful whale steak. Has anyone ever had a whale steak? Nobody? I'm intrigued, but I'd be nervous. That'd be kind of fatty, which I think would be good. But anyway, I'd like to try that eventually. Anyone has an in on whale, let me know after the service. Anyway, so this guy's enjoying this whale steak that we don't really know what it is. He's by himself, and he is just, it's his reward for a job well done. But the thing is, right next to him, or sort of outside the ship, that whale carcass is being dragged alongside the ship. And there's all these sharks in this frenzy of activity that are just mowing on that carcass of the whale and biting at each other in this incredible frenzy. And it's really disturbing, his fine meal. So he calls to the cook, who also happens to be the preacher, and he says, can you, preach to the sharks? They need the gospel. So to get them to calm down, I guess. And so the preacher goes over and he starts off preaching to the sharks using a curse word. And then the harpooner said, no, you cannot, don't start the sermon with a swear. And so the cook starts over, and he gets a few sentences in, and this time he stumbles once more into swearing. And he stops himself this time, and he says, all right, and he takes a different tact. And he speaks to the sharks, and this time he says, beloved creatures, you're behaving only the way you know how to behave. You are sharks, and therefore, of course, you are sharkish. But you must learn to govern your nature and calm yourselves so that you're not sharkish all the time. And then he concludes his sermon with this phrase, even an angel is nothing more than a shark who has learned to control its sharkishness. And I kind of love that. I think I do. But anyway, he goes on. Melville kind of takes this little bit of a theological twist. That he doesn't do this all the time, at least that I'm aware of. But he has this comment right after it. He says, if you took the whole thing, this whole scene, and you turned it upside down, with the people in the water and the sharks above, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And it's a simple commentary of his world, 19th century world, that we live in a sharkish world. And there ain't one of us, I just said ain't, and it's on the video now.
Sorry.
There is not one of us Who doesn't know what that means, right? We know we live in a sharkish world. We are so good at tearing each other apart. We are so good at going on the attack. We are so good at demeaning one another. I didn't need that. Yeah, and as I say that, I want to say something else too. I hear a lot of people talking about the way our discourse is and the way we are with each other, sort of this sharkish way. We often say, it's the media, it's social media, but I say, don't blame Facebook, don't blame Twitter, CNN, Fox, okay? They don't necessarily help, but I think when you look at this psalm, you can see that the tendencies within humanity have existed for thousands of years. That's what this psalm is about, the fact that we tear each other apart. It's our nature. The method may change, but the pain and the anger and the fear, it's all still there. So everyone's favorite sociologist, certainly mine, my wife always points out that she's my go-to. You probably already know who I'm going to mention here, but it's Brene Brown. She says that shame is worse than guilt. And she writes, I don't believe shame is helpful or productive, and she means ever. In fact, I think shame is much more likely to be the source of destructive, hurtful behavior than the solution or cure. And she goes on to say, I think the fear of disconnection can make us dangerous. The fear of disconnection can make us dangerous. I mean, many of us are walking on eggshells right now. We're just hoping that we can get through, whether it's the pandemic or the election or what, we can just get through where we are without being torn apart at the seams. That we can just survive this. And where some are casting doubt on the legitimacy of our voting, or others are threatening certain responses depending on outcomes, it can leave us in a very tenuous, very anxious position. And it makes it seem like Brene Brown is pretty prophetic. Where there is fear of disconnection or loss of power, of disenfranchisement, danger is not far behind. In times of fear, what do? We project all that anger we have. We project our shame onto other people. We make them the enemy. We make them the bad one. In fact, much of the shame that we carry, much of the burdens that we hold within ourselves are stuff that's actually put on us by people that are around us. Oftentimes, it's people who love us. We're projecting our own worst traits about ourselves onto other people. Happens all the time. Doesn't matter how upstanding you are as a citizen, doesn't matter how good a Christian you are, doesn't matter what your job is. It's something we all just sort of can't help but do. I was in my office this week, sorting through some things, dusting a little bit, and I got into the closet and I saw that print we have, the copy of Da Vinci's Last Supper that we've used for when we've done that Living Last Supper during Lent. Such a cool presentation. But I wanted to check something about that print that I'd heard about the original. I'd never checked it before, and it has to do with Judas, the way Judas is portrayed. Judas, the one on whom all of humanity's worst traits have been cast for centuries now. Okay, that Judas. And what was I looking for? Well, in the original, by Judas's elbow, and unfortunately not in a lot of copies, it's not in the copy I have, but the original has a little bowl of salt by Judas's elbow, and it's turned over, and the salt is spilled everywhere. In that day, it's called a salt cellar, but it's a salt shaker, okay? That's basically what it is. Been turned over, and for centuries, well before Da Vinci, that image or that idea of spilling salt was a metaphor for the worst, for it's an omen of evil. It's a sign of one who is not to be trusted, of betrayal, of denial, of the worst traits of humanity. And so it just figures that's right there in front of Judas. Look, we've been casting that on Judas. That's what we do. And the truth is, it doesn't matter if it's like a convenient character of history like that, or if it's a convenient person in our lives right now. We are casting and projecting our shame on one another. I mean, are there some of you today, and don't raise your hand, but have you gone through the experience of betrayal? Do you know what it's like to give your heart to someone only to have it returned in tatters or just abused? Have you been the one that's been betrayed? Have you broken someone else's heart? Are there some here that who long from that deep place to just finally find that peace and that forgiveness, and yet somehow to this point, whenever you seek that, all you get back is more heavy burden, more shame? one way or the other, we all know what the psalmist is talking about. We understand what he's trying to get across to us, this sense of loss, this fear, this burden. But here's the deal, because there's a big and yet, because it's not all about that. That psalm talks about that. It's real there, but in the middle of the psalm, the tone shifts. I hope you noticed it. I don't know if you did, because I didn't do the whole psalm, but it really shifts there. And this first half is about distress and worry and feeling like a broken pot, but then it says, but Lord, I trust in you. Sometimes that's just what it takes in the midst of whatever we're going through, just to be able to stop and remember that and affirm that. And it's kind of like the same thing that Luke has Jesus say, even on the cross, where Jesus says, Lord, I commend to you my spirit. I give to you all that I am, even in this moment, even when everything is the worst. I trust you. And it's like the poet is saying, no matter what happens in our lives, at our death, I'm yours, God. I trust you because I felt your love. I know what your mercy feels like. It's a psalm of hope, ultimately. And it's a word that says, yes, we can get through any of these days and make it to the other side. We all need to hear that. I'm reminded of that powerful book I read in seminary called The Gospel According to Judas by Ray Anderson. And the first line of the prologue kind of confronts us with what the book is about. When Ray kind of goes in this public bathroom and he sees scrawled upon a mirror, come home, Judas, all is forgiven. Do you believe that? Can you really receive that? That's a test for us. But I'm telling you, those words right there, come home, all is forgiven, that is the heart of the gospel. That is what Jesus was trying to tell us the whole time. It's what this psalmist is talking about. Because that spirit is what gives him hope, him trust, to kind of endure, to keep going. Come home. All is forgiven. Our poet today doesn't know who Brene Brown is, but he knows that the cycles of shame and blame do nothing but destroy. And that hope and grace and mercy toward each other are absolutely the only things we can rely on to turn things around in our communities, in our country, in our world. Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel. Throughout the entire story of the Bible, from Old Testament to New, there's a golden thread that goes through it all. And that's that singular promise that God says, I promise the gift of my mercy and my love to the entire world. That's the promise of God. So today, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, may the music of God's mercy be heard and then sung through the masks. May it be sung by each one of us. May it shine through us down every road we travel. Amen. Amen. Now, it's getting a little warm out here. I hope all of you are still awake. We're going to sing a song and we'll do a benediction and the song of sending.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from Thee. Take my silver Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own. It shall be thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour it out at thy feet as a treasured store. Take myself and I will be ever only all for thee. Here am I, all for thee. All of me. Take my life, it's all for thee. It's all for thee. Here am I, all of me. Take my life, it's all for thee. It's all for thee. Take myself and I will be ever only all for thee.
And friends, so now may you take the spirit and the love, the sense of family of this place, and may it hold you and strengthen you until we meet like this again. I hope next week, right here, just like this. As our closing song, we're going to refer, if you need to refer to your song sheets, please do, but we're going to sing each other out with Blessed Be the Tie That Binds. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of humankind is like to that above. Go in the peace of Christ. Amen.